state of Iowa. And during that time, the state has added 752 jobs.
Oh.
So they're not all huge jobs. They're not, big ticket jobs. A lot of them are very, very small, very low salary, front line kind of people. But there are a couple that make big money. One of them was hired in the governor's office and makes $254,000 a year as the administrator for the state's corrections department. So, what do you think about this? If this is a hiring freeze, why did 752 people get hired?
Now, their reasoning for this is that some of these people were not hired with the general fund, and that some of them were hired from federal stimulus money and grants that had already been approved and things like that. So when it comes to those people, they were just filling jobs, don't really care. I don't really see any kind of explanation yet as to how they were able to hire these other people and why they would do it. Because once again, we get into that conversation we had last week, where if you were operating without them fine, why were they needed to be brought in when you didn't have the money? It's different when it's federal stimulus funds and stuff like that, but a few of these jobs are coming out of the general fund. And if you have a hiring freeze, you would think you would stick to it and actually stop hiring people.
You would think, I said that most of them are small frontline jobs, but there are 8 people who make more than the governor's salary of $130,000 a year. The 8 people that are hired with more salary than that total $1.5 million of state money. So the salaries range from $254,000 to $117,000, it looks like. So that's a little less than the governor. But the fact is that they hired 8 people who are making 6 figures. I don't think you need that. I mean, these are huge, like, some of them here, like one works for the lottery, one works for the Department of Revenue. And I mean, I'm sure they're big needed jobs, but during a hiring freeze, especially the governor's office shouldn't be hiring people if he orders the hiring freeze.
Well, I mean, one of them was a press assistant. And some of these jobs you just don't, I don't agree that some of these jobs are necessary. They just sound like somebody isn't willing to put in the work. You're a public servant. You need to be able to
answer your own
work.
phone.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of those people.
Anyway, what does this say about the way that the state government is run? Is this say like we're going to set rules but not follow them, or is this just kind of like a loophole thing that just kind of happened by a set of extraordinary circumstances?
Some of this was slipping through. Some of these hirings, I think, even though they were in a hiring freeze, some of these people were hired before the budget crisis was known. Because a lot of this has been happening since December, and we found out about the budget crisis maybe
a month ago, 2 months ago.
Beginning of September-ish.
Yeah,
Actually, I think that's a little early. Late September is when we really started to find out about this. And those are a little bit more understandable. But if you have a hiring freeze, I just don't get it. So I think it reflects more on the inability of a government to efficiently enforce what it's trying to do. Okay. They just can't do it.
Well, I want to add on to that question. Then, what do you think about Culver? Is this just a fact of all governments, or is this just his specific administration? I mean, there's a big election coming in 2010. We all know that. What is this? What does this show for Culver? Is this another obstacle for him to overcome in this constant battle with him trying to show that he's actually an effective leader, or is this just a fault of all governments?
Well, it's a fault of all governments. I agree that it's a fault of all governments, but it's going to reflect badly on Culver, because that's what the executive does. They take the brunt of it and shoulder the burden. That's why we have executives, because that's where the blame always lands. And even though it might not necessarily be his fault, it might just be at the fault of a poorly run or just a very bureaucratic government, it's going to land on the problem's going to land on his desk.
Yeah.
So people read the headline, and when you think government, you always think of the executive. You rarely think of all the other faces that are involved or behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's his job. He's the governor. He's going to take the brunt of everything bad and the positive of everything good. So, having said that, let's move on. Another election-based article here. It comes from the Federal Election Commission. Is being pressured by a Republican-leaning political action group to ease the rules of automated calls. Yeah. Like when you receive a call, hi, this is Terry Branstad, vote for me.
Yeah. Just a robot.
It's actually the law currently in Iowa is that the call has to be initiated by a live human being, and they have to initiate the call, but the call can be recorded. What this political action group, is trying to do is make it so it's all computer controlled, so that the computer could have a calling list and call everybody themselves, and there would have to be no human involvement. The idea behind this would cut a lot of costs. They're using the idea that this is a restriction of speech. So what do you think? Should this measure be relaxed? Should there be fully automated calls, or should the humans have to initiate?
I don't really care if a human calls me, no matter what, it turns into an automated phone call and it's annoying.
Exactly.
So let them do it at a cheaper rate, and that's all I have on that, because I don't think it's that big of an issue. Just get rid of those people, and who cares? No matter what, it's bothering me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care who calls me, if it's a live person or a computer, and as soon as I hear that, hello, this is Terry Branstad, and I just hang up. I'm not going to listen. So I don't have anything else to say to that, but what do you think of it? Is this a restriction of speech is the last question I have for that.
I don't think it's a restriction of speech. I don't really know if they're still allowed to call.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a set restriction.
Yeah.
Based on something. Someone was upset that they didn't have a nice person at the other end of the line at first, because you're not even staying on the phone with that person for that long, so I don't even understand this law. I think this is a stupid law.
That's what I was just going to say. It's just a bureaucracy law. But that's all we have for this. On the other side of the break, an election winner pulled from a hat.
Yes. We'll be back right after. All right, welcome back. Again, this is a salute to Veterans Day, and that was the Army Anthem. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you to all the veterans. And for our next topic, an election in St. Charles.
Iowa.
Iowa, yes, this is in Iowa, sorry. St. Charles, Iowa. Was completed November 3rd, but resulted in a tie. Incumbent Joanne Brown received 112 votes, and the challenger Dennis Smith received 112 votes. So the Madison County Auditor pulled the winner's name from a hat. Dennis Smith was selected as the new mayor of the town, so incumbent is out. Now, do you think that there is anything wrong with selecting the winner from a hat?
Absolutely. You can't have a substantive race based on chance. I mean, that's what it came down to.
Mm-hmm.
If they're tied, you have to have a recount, I think, honestly.
Oh yeah, you need
or
to
even a recount or a revote.
I was going to say they need to probably go back to the polls.
225 people. I'm pretty sure you could recount their vote. Or you could revote.
Yeah. What is this? So this is not the right way to resolve this in your mind.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, imagine it as a presidential election. Would you like that?
Well, of course not. But it's a matter of
it's the same.
If all these
principle.
people didn't care, and they were like, "Well, this will be fun," because what do you think the mayor of St. Charles does?
Stuff.
I'm sure he walks around and makes sure everybody's all right. That's about it. I mean, I don't really know what the mayor of these small towns do. So
but it's at the same time,
you gotta kind of
weigh that. The thought that came into my mind when I read this article, I kind of chuckled to myself and thought, whoever said your vote doesn't count. There's some guy sitting on a sofa just going, "Oh, I guess I should have voted."
Yeah, probably.
It's like that. They had that movie that came out before the election last year.
Swing Vote.
Swing Vote. There it is.
I watched it. It was just okay.
I didn't expect anything great out of that movie, but it just made me think of that, and it's not the right way to do it. You have to have some kind of real revote or a recount or something.
Yeah, I think it's really funny. I mean, if with 224 people, you can almost just have them go into almost do it like a caucus and have them sit in different parts of the room.
Yeah.
But it would just be that simple. I don't know why you can't revote. I just think that it's a very odd. It sounds like something out of the Andy Griffith Show.
I'm honestly expecting a lawsuit.
I don't know if Joanne's that upset, but
Well, you kind of
we'll see. I don't know.
Maybe she had
I don't
plans.
know Joanne.
Maybe she had plans to run for
Possible.
governor, and she had to. I don't know. I got nothing. Let's just keep moving. That's a dead article.
All right, so we're gonna move on to King County okays a